Back. It's Tuesday. That means it's time for another social distance learning. This is Ed Gardner. I should probably turn my video on because that was a mistake I've been making the entire time. We're getting back to roots tonight. Tonight, Scott, the bench doctor, is going to show us how to make all the guns safe. If you've been following our YouTube channel over the last, 6 months or so, you may have noticed there have been a stream of short videos demonstrating safety and specific to different kinds of handguns and rifles. And we thought it would probably be a good idea to do that all in one shot, answer questions in real time on our Zoom. We're also streaming live to Twitch and Twitter and Facebook, the page, and Facebook, the Members Lounge. We're not on YouTube because you'll be handling real guns on the screen, and YouTube does not allow that. So the YouTube video will be posted after we're done here tonight. If you've got questions, I encourage you to drop them into the Zoom chat. I'm going to try to cruise across the various places where we're live and see if I can pick up those questions that you might have for Scott as you're going. This probably is going to be really good to share with your friends who might be new gun owners. There's some, 8 million of us now.
Wow.
8 million new gun owners in the last year. So folks are buying guns, and obviously not all of them are getting the training they need. So we're trying to go back to basics here and bring a level of sort of beginner's knowledge to folks so that they have it and go from there. Scott, I don't think I have anything else. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Well, as Ed said, I think I did a series of these where each type of gun is its own individual video. So we decided to just go through it all in one shot. And it is really geared for the new gun owner. So feel free to ask any question that pops into your head. People are usually familiar with one or two different types. But this, we're going to try to cover a much broader spectrum of maybe some of these types of firearms are things that you're not familiar with. And we're hope to demystify some of that stuff. But so right here, I have a striker fired semi-automatic handgun. I have a hammer fired semi-automatic handgun, and I have a revolver. It pretty much encompasses most of what you're going to encounter with handguns. And then I have a series of long guns that we're going to go through: a shotgun, an AK pattern sporting rifle, an AR pattern sporting rifle, and a bolt action. And we're going to show you how to make them all safe should you encounter one or somebody encounter one and not know whether it's loaded. We're going to show you how to check it and unload it and make it safe. So I'm going to go ahead and start off with probably nowadays the most common is the striker fired semi-automatic handgun. None of these guns are loaded. They've all been unloaded. Some of them have dummy ammo in them to demonstrate the point, but there is no live ammo. So just to put everybody at ease. So you can see here that, looking down, there's the magazine is out of the gun. It's empty. The chamber is empty. But should you encounter a gun in that state, looking at it, there's no way to know if the gun is loaded, if there's a round in the chamber. This gun could be in any condition. It could be ready to go. If it were loaded with a round in the chamber, a simple pull of the trigger would set it off. So to unload one of these and make it safe, the first thing you always want to do is get the magazine out. Magazine release is usually right here, usually where the operator, if they were holding it right-handed, it would be where your right thumb is on the pistol grip. On some older guns, European guns, it might be down here on the base. Some older, pre-50s European guns, mag release is down here. So if you don't see it here, look here. So that you get the magazine out. You do not put your finger in the finger well. Or the finger guard. There's no reason to be in this area of the gun. We do not want to touch that trigger at all, and we always want to keep this muzzle pointed in a safe direction. And you want to retain control of the gun through the whole thing. You don't want to set it down and go in the other room and come back. So Once we've removed our magazine, we then want to move this slide back. And on these types of guns, you just grab the slide and pull straight back like so. There's a recoil spring that will pop it back forward if you let go. But to lock it, you have a button right here, and it's generally in the same place on most of these guns. So you slide back and push up. And what it does is it pushes up a little lever that locks into this notch on the frame. Once it's up like that, you can now look down through the top, see that there's nothing in the mag well, and you can inspect the chamber. See right here, there's nothing there. If there had been something in the chamber, this would have ejected the cartridge and the gun would be empty. But you always want to finish by checking it. If we had done that first, it would eject the cartridge, but with the magazine there, it could feed another round, and then you would dump the magazine and have a live round in the gun. So we always start by ejecting the magazine, and then we check the chamber. So once that's been accomplished, you can now put a chamber flag in it and transport it or do what you need to do with it. But that gun is now safe. And if there was ammo in the magazine, I would probably empty the magazine as well. I would not want this to be sitting around with ammo in it in case somebody curiously picks it up and figures out how to load the gun. So that's a striker fired. The difference between a striker fired and a hammer fired is you'll notice that there is no hammer here on the back. All the firing mechanism is contained within the slide. And with a hammer fired gun, you can tell if it's in the ready condition because the hammer will be back. But on a striker fired gun, there's no way to know that. And a lot of striker fired guns don't have an external safety. Some do, some don't. This one does not. The safety is built into the striker assembly and the trigger. So for all intents and purposes, there is no external safety that you can then enable to unload the gun. So just be aware. So I'm going to go ahead and get this one off the bench. Get it out of my way. Now we're going to go to a hammer-fired semi-automatic handgun. Once again, magazine's empty, chamber's empty. This gun has no live ammo in it, no ammo at all. But this is a hammer-fired gun, and you can tell because back here, you see this. This is the hammer, and this is in the back. It's back in the loaded position, and this would tell you that the gun is ready to fire. So once again, we do not touch the trigger. And I'll show you what we need to do to get that hammer in the forward position. But for now, the first thing we're going to do is get that magazine out of the gun. Once again, the mag release is right up here where your left thumb, where the operator's thumb is on their right hand. If they were left-handed, it wouldn't be in that same position. But we dump the magazine like so, and you can just operate your slide just like you did on the striker fired. And notice that the chamber is right here on this gun. It's very easy to see into it. Should you need to drop that hammer, you want to hold your thumb down on it like so, and just gently pull the trigger and let the hammer ride forward. Or if you don't feel comfortable doing that, you could put something here. You just do not want that hammer to go forward and strike the firing pin. It will go back into a kind of a half-cock position like that, or you can just slide it open and observe the chamber and make sure the magazine is out of it. But in this configuration, this gun is now empty. You can then slide your chamber flag in, release the slide, and that gun is safe. Once again, I would unload the magazine if it had anything in it. So that's a hammer fired. You can always tell the hammer because it's on the backward side of the gun. The most common gun in this configuration is a 1911. That's more popular. This is a M9 Beretta or a 92 series Beretta. And then last is the revolver. This you'll notice has cases in it, but these are all fired cases. None of these are live rounds. I just put them in there for demonstration purposes. But this is a modern double action revolver. The older cowboy guns were what are called single action, meaning the trigger performs only one action, which is to let the hammer fall forward. Modern revolvers are double action, meaning the trigger does two actions, which is to cock the hammer and then release it. More guns made nowadays are double action, and this is a double action Ruger. So if you encounter one of these and you need to make it safe, the first thing you're going to want to do is, first of all, do not touch the trigger. We don't need to touch the trigger for this. You're going to want to open the cylinder. And on this is a Ruger. So you press down on it and the cylinder will rock out to the left side like that. Some of them you push in, some you pull out, depending whether it's a Smith or a Colt or a Ruger. They're all slightly different, but they're all in the same place on this left side of the gun. So on this one, I'm going to push in and I'm going to flip that out with my hand, tilt the gun back and press this rod like so, and it will push the shells out. You can tell, nice thing about a revolver is you can see in where the cylinder is, and you can see the brass. If this was loaded, you know, as it's closed, you can see right here, the shiny brass. That would tell you that at least there's something in these cylinders, whether they're spent cartridges or live cartridges, we don't know. And I'm not willing to look down the front of this thing. I don't want to look down the barrel of a loaded gun. So once again, I just press the button, flip it out, and press the release, and that will eject the cases. Now, should you encounter it where you could see brass in there and the hammer was back like that, this gun is cocked and ready to fire. And if there were a live round in that position, it would go off. So to mitigate that, this is where we would have to put our finger on the trigger, but I'm going to put my thumb on the hammer and pull back and gently pull the trigger and let the hammer go forward like so. So once again, or the other thing you could do is put something in here to prevent it from striking the firing pin. But I like to use my thumb, put my thumb on the hammer, pull back, gently pull the trigger back and let the hammer ride forward. And at that point, you can then open it. If the hammer is back, the cylinder won't open. So you're going to have to ride that forward a little bit to open the cylinder like so. So just be very, very careful putting your finger on that trigger. And once again, watch where the gun is pointing. You always want this pointed in a safe direction. So that is a double action revolver. A single action revolver is a little bit different. On most of them, the cylinder doesn't swing out like this. What you would have is a loading gate on this side, and you would have to put the hammer in a half cock position and rotate the cylinder and push the cases out one at a time. But they're not that common anymore, so I'm not going to bring one out and waste your time with it. So that's pretty much it for the most encountered types of handguns. Are there any questions about the handguns at this point?
Yep, there was one specifically about the loaded chamber indicators. Should you ever rely on those at all?
Well, if there's a loaded chamber indicator in a revolver, contrary, most people make the mistake of putting it down the barrel like so. That's actually not the chamber. These are the chambers here. And the gun...
They meant on the loaded chamber indicators on a semi.
Yeah, well, I'm just pointing out.
I'm not talking about the flag, though. We're talking about where there's that little piece of metal that'll pop out, or you can be able to see if there's a round in by looking. Yeah,
I don't even like to discuss those because there's so many different types of them that it's easy to mistake one or not understand what it is or what it's telling you. So I don't rely on them. If it were my gun, I would know the gun well enough, but there's so many different ways that firearms companies have enabled loaded chamber indicators. In California, I think they can't sell anything that doesn't have one. And what it is on some guns, it'll be a little piece of metal that pops up, that tells you that there's something in the chamber. There's a few ways that they do it, but I wouldn't rely on that because, like I said, that it could be malfunctioning. You don't know. And if you're not familiar with that particular type of gun, you may not understand what it is you're seeing. So I would.
And on some of them, it's just a drilled hole into the slide. So if there's brass,
you can see shiny brass, but some brass or steel cases don't show up. They don't look like brass. They're steel, so they're going to show dark, and you would maybe mistake that for an unloaded chamber.
So short answer is don't trust them.
Yeah, I don't. All right. Well, if that's it for handguns, we're going to go to a shotgun now. And there are, once again, many types of shotguns. This is just a pump action shotgun. This is a Winchester Model 12 pump action shotgun, but a Remington 870. Pretty much any of the pump guns work the same. And so in this configuration, you cannot tell if this gun is loaded or unloaded. You see the bolt is forward. There's no way to know. So the first thing I want to do is there's a button on all of these somewhere. On this one, it's right here. And I'm going to push up on that, and that unlocks the slide. And I can now open the action by pulling the slide back. I can look down in there and I can see the chamber, that there's nothing in the chamber. And from here, you can push down on this loading gate and it will tell you if there's any ammo in the tube here. This is a tube fed gun. If there was a shell in there, you would see the back of it. This is a dummy shell. Give you an idea what it would look like. So you would see the shell in there. You can see that maroon color. You would see it sticking out and ready to load. So if that were the case, you would cock the hammer back, or you would cock the slide back, and you could then dump that shell out, and you could work the slide back and forth to empty the rounds out. That's a little bit dangerous. Or you can just push down on this loading gate and they'll pop right out. So you can just do that and they'll come right out. Semi-automatic guns generally work the same way. There'll be some sort of a slide release on it, and there will be a loading gate or some way you can unload the action, but you want to make sure that there's nothing in the chamber before you do this. You inspect the chamber, you get anything out of the chamber that's in there, and then you unload the tube. So this is you can also push the slide on, or the safety on this gun. It's down here. They're usually in the same spot, somewhere around the trigger. You can put the safety on, and that will keep the trigger from firing while you do this. So you have your safety on, slide open, check the cylinder, and then check your tube here. And then I would just leave the safety on, put a chamber flag in it, close it back up, and bag it, or dispose of it however you need to. I don't have a semi-auto shotgun to show you how to do it on a semi-auto, but it's very similar. They're all pretty similar in the way that they release, and the magazines are usually tube fed like that. Some of the later ones, there are AR pattern shotguns now that take a magazine, and in that case you would release the magazine first and then check the chamber and clear it that way, like you would a sporting rifle. So that's the 12 gauge shotgun. We'll go with the boring bolt gun. This is a bolt action. These are more common with hunting rifles.
Before you move on to the rifle, could you bring the shotgun back?
Yeah.
Specifically, how can you tell if the safety is on a shotgun like that?
Well, on this one, usually there is a right here on this gun. There's usually a red or a white line here. If you see red, then it means fire. If you see white, it means safe. This is an old gun that the paint is worn off of it, but most modern ones, if you see red, it means it's in a firing position. If you see white, you would see white on this side. That would tell you that it's in a safe position. Once again, don't always trust the safety. They could be malfunctioning. Just because it's in safe doesn't mean you want to put your finger on the trigger and try it. I would always still keep my finger out of the finger well, even with the safety on. There's no reason to touch it. And safeties are fallible. They've been known to fail. So just keep your finger out of there.
The same thing about colors also goes for the tank safeties on Mossbergs. Usually there's a red dot. If you see the red dot, it's in a fireable condition.
Yeah, and you'll what was I going to say about that? Anyway, I'll show you. He's talking about a tang safety, and that's what this is right here. This is the tang. And on this gun, you'll see red. That means it's in the firing position. I pull it back. You'll see the S means it's safe. So this is a tang safety. Here, you would be in the trigger is hot. Here, the gun is safe. So on this gun, that's how it works. The problem with bolt guns and the safety is it locks the bolt on a lot of them. So with this gun in the safe position, I can't open the bolt to unload the chamber. So I have to put it in the firing position and open my bolt like so. But before I do that, I want to check and see if there's a magazine release. This gun has an internal magazine, and I'm going to pop that and open it like that. So this could contain cartridges. I want to get that open so it doesn't feed another cartridge in when I open the bolt. Now at that point, I can open the bolt and inspect the chamber, and I won't be feeding another round in if the magazine were loaded. So unfortunately, with a lot of bolt guns, you cannot open the bolt in the safe position. So just a word of warning that if you encounter one and you can't open the bolt, to inspect it, check the safety, and then open it. So that's how you do it, though. It's just like a semi-automatic handgun. You want to open the magazine and clear it first. Now, some older military rifles and old bolt guns don't have a detachable magazine or a magazine that flips open like that. And in those, if there were rounds in there, you would see them down through the top of the gun. And if you encounter that situation, look for a mag release. If you don't see one, what you're going to have to do is cycle the action, and the bolt will pull each cartridge out. That's dangerous to do because you're putting the gun in a fireable position and then unloading it. So be very careful in that situation. If you encounter one of those are usually pretty old guns. Most modern guns have some sort of a detachable magazine or a magazine where the base plate flips down. So you would just cycle it until it was empty and then put a chamber flag or something in the chamber to prevent it from being loaded again. So that's a bolt action rifle. Any questions on that one? I hope I'm not going too fast.
No other questions right now.
All right. Next, we're going to go to an AK pattern rifle. This is an AK 47. It's the sporting guns. And this one, the safety is right here. It's right on the right side of the gun. If the safety's up, the bolt can't open. But in this gun, if the safety is up, you can at least inspect the chamber right here. You can open this far enough to look and see. But once again, the first thing we're going to do is get the magazine out of the way. We don't ever want to feed another round. So on these, down here below the trigger, right in front of the trigger, is this little flap. You're going to push forward with your thumb, and the magazine just rocks out like that. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do. And then you're going to want to open the bolt and inspect the chamber right here. Now, if there was something in the chamber, you're going to want to flip the safety down and pull the slide back. And that will eject the cartridge completely out of the gun. And then you can see in the chamber, and you can see the mag well that it's empty. Now be careful with these guns because these bolts don't lock back on a AK. So that bolt can slide forward and smack your finger if you have it in here. Do not let go of the bolt. So once again, an AK. You're going to push forward on this tab and below and in front of the trigger guard and rock the magazine out. And then you're going to slide the bolt back, inspect the chamber, And then I would put a chamber flag in there and let the bolt ride back, and that would prevent it from loading again. And you could put the safety back on if you want to. But that's an AK pattern rifle. This works for the AK-47, the AKM, and the AK-74. And I'm sure all of the AK pattern shotguns would all operate the same way. All of the controls are in the same places on those. Okay. And last but not least is the AR-15 pattern rifles. And once again, this is the AR-15. The mag release is right here above the, if the operator were right-handed, it's right above the trigger, and it's just slightly forward. It's this button right here. First thing you're going to do is get that magazine out of there. Let me move the chamber flag so it would be in this position. You'll see the bolt is closed, so there's no way to know if there's something in there. So like a semi-automatic handgun, we're going to press this button, slide the magazine out. You can see that I had some dummy cartridges in there. You get that out of your way. And then we have to open this bolt. And on an AR-15 rifle, you have a charging handle that's right above your pistol grip. You just come straight up and you see this T handle right here. You pull back on that and that pulls the bolt open. And now you can inspect the chamber right here. And be careful, once again, because that bolt will slam forward if you let go. You can lock the bolt back on one of these by pulling back. And on this side, you have a little button you pull up on it. And that will lock that bolt back. So once again, we're going to drop the magazine first. Go ahead. So it'd be in this condition. We're going to drop the magazine by pressing that button, removing the magazine, grab the charging handle and pull back. See that round pop out? So that's what you're looking for. You check in there to make sure there's nothing in there. And you put your chamber flag in and let the bolt lock at home. So that's an AR-15, and the AR-10 and the AR-15 are the controls are exactly the same. The AR-10 is just bigger, but it operates the same way, and the controls are all in the same place. So, any questions about the AR-15 or the AKs?
Nope. It's been pretty quiet, actually.
Okay. All right. They're probably all asleep now. So I think that pretty much is it, unless there's some oddball configuration that somebody wants to talk about. But that covers probably 90% of the guns that you're going to encounter day to day. You might encounter an old single action cowboy gun or something, or there's some oddball variations of some of this stuff, but not real common. These are the kinds of things that you would run into in somebody's home, or in a car or truck or somewhere, is generally one variation of one of these guns.
Do you have the different types of crack action shotgun or rifle? Because I know that most people are familiar with the lever on the top.
No, the only lever gun I have is a 30-30, and it's up in my safe. I didn't think to
I know I was talking about the break action shotguns where they have the lever on top, and some of them have the.
No, I don't have any break top shotguns, but there's a lever up on the top. He's talking about the gun where it has a release, and then the gun kind of breaks in the middle like that. And what happens is usually it will eject a shell out of the chamber, and they're usually either a single barrel or a double barrel gun. And you open them up, and anything in the chambers will pop out, and you can remove the cases at that point. But there's usually a lever up on the top on the tang, somewhere on the top of the gun like that, or a lever that moves side to side if it's a double barrel.
We'll drop some pictures. We'll drop some pictures on the channel.
Yeah, those are trap guns, and sometimes it'll be a double barrel where they're side by side. Sometimes there'll be a double barrel, one on top of the other, but they'll break open right at the end of the stock where the barrels meet. That's where it's going to hinge open. And then you would be able to see down the chambers. And then they're usually only a single or double shot. So there would be a cartridge in each barrel, but then once they're unloaded, the gun is unloaded. You have to feed the gun by putting new ones in the same place. So there's no worry about having to drop a magazine and possibly feeding another cartridge into them.
Hey Kyle, I want to ask a question. There's a couple there that I think are important, but I want to get this sort of focused on what we're doing. If we have time, Scott, if you have a single action pistol, you can bring it out. Otherwise, I want to, Larry in the chat has summarized things I think particularly well across all of the platforms. Two things. One, if you don't feel comfortable with it, don't touch the gun. Go find somebody that is comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah. Just isolate it. Try to get it out of your way.
Guns don't just go off, right?
No.
You have to touch them. You have to touch the trigger usually. Modern guns, you have to touch their trigger, period. Guns don't just go off.
No. This is a variation on kind of what he was talking about with the break top shotgun. This is a break top revolver. This is they haven't made these in a million years, but you push up and then the gun breaks open like that. And that's what we're talking about when we say a break top, is it pivots open and ejects the cartridge out. So that's what it looks like. On this one, you just push up on that lever and then open it. But a shotgun would do the same thing if it were a break top shotgun. I don't have a single action revolver down here. To show you, I figured I'd show you the difference though between, I was talking about the Ruger and this is a Colt pistol. So if you'll notice on the Ruger, we press in on this button to open it. This is a Colt. So I pull back and open it. So there's slight variations on how to do this between Smith & Wesson, Colt, and Ruger, but those are the most common ways to do it.
Yeah, Smith's, you're pushing forward. So to sort of summarize things, and I want to thank Larry in chat for this. It's like across any of the platforms, you want to drop or empty the magazine. You want to empty and double check the chamber. And then you want to put a flag in it so the next person that comes across it knows that it's not loaded. Those are going to be common across all of the things Scott just showed us. If you don't feel comfortable, don't touch it. Call somebody that does. I wouldn't call the police and say there's a gun because then SWAT teams show up. Call somebody who does, and they can come do it with or for you. But empty it. Empty the gun. That's the whole point.
And if you don't have a chamber flag on a semi-auto, lock the slide open like this, and you could put darn near anything down there to prevent it from closing all the way. This is just an old Sharpie. You could just do that, but that keeps it from going all the way forward, and it would tell you that the gun is not in a fireable position. It can't fire in that configuration. But if the least you could do is lock the slide open so that you can see through that it's empty and that the chamber is empty. But, if you don't have a chamber flag, you could use something else. Just anything to prevent the gun from being put back into battery is what we want to see.
One more little bit of sort of parallel advice. If you think a gun has been used in a crime, don't touch it.
Yeah.
This is sort of general. This gun, the kids have encountered it because you're at someone's house and you need to make it safe. Don't touch things that you might think are evidence, and don't touch things that you're not comfortable touching. But if you get familiar with these things, then you're much better off than you were before you got familiar with them. So. These are things that you can use at the range. If you're a new gun owner, these are things you're going to want to practice doing. And I'm going to add one more thing, Scott, and I'm not sure if you added it as part of your gun diatribe. When you empty the gun and you open that action, you want it. Scott's got good examples right there in front of us with the action up and open, right? So when there's an action that can be up and open, and on that Beretta, it's the top, but the action's sort of the top, so there is no real up. But on some of the other modern semis, up and open means you can stare at that gun. You can walk past it and stare down at it without touching it. to see that it's unloaded.
Yeah.
Likewise with the revolver. So action up and open, barrel in that safe direction, as safe as you can make it. In our classes, we say our generally safe direction. If you listen to Cooper's rules, it's a downrange, wherever the hell that is. Downrange in real life doesn't exist. So in whatever the safest direction you can manage. And action up, action open and up. So people can walk around it and look without touching it. That way, the next guy that comes across it, yeah, that's an unloaded gun.
Yeah, if you're at a shooting range, your best bet is to get some chamber flags before you go, or ask them for some at the range, at the desk. And when you're done shooting, you're going to want to put a chamber flag in the action and lock it open like that, and the magazine out. And the RSO will love you, because the gun cannot be fired in this configuration, and it needs to be pointed down range. And then when you put your gun on the bench, or when you're going to take your gun away from the bench, bring your bag to the bench, take the gun out, set it on the bench, open it up, put the chamber flag in, remove the bag, and then come back and proceed. And when you're done, bring your bag to the bench, set it down, and place the gun in the bag on the bench. You don't want to take the gun and turn around and walk over to wherever your bag is and put it away. That's a big faux pas. So get some chamber flags and use them, and you won't have any problems. We should I want to do a video on going to the range and just how it works. I think that would be helpful to some people.
Sounds like something we should do soon. Kyle, I apologize for taking over. Any other questions?
Nope, not at the moment.
So once again, all these have been covered, and each type of gun has its own individual video out on the club's YouTube page. So if you wanted to see one particular type again, then they're all out there and available for you to watch if you'd like.